What's up, everyone? Path of Exile 2 has been out for well over a month now, and it still feels like I'm learning something new every day. This game is massive, and there are so many hidden secrets and hidden systems and things that you just might not be aware of because the game just doesn't teach you them. It doesn't show you them. So today, I wanted to go over them. I wanted to go over some of the big things that I've been learning recently, that I've done recently, that I haven't already covered. And these are things that will really help you progress. They'll really help you get stronger, get further at endgame, and they might even give you some things to do that you haven't been doing yet. This is going to be quite a long one. I'm going to try to go into detail into all of these things. So if you do learn something new, you find something useful here that you haven't seen before, do consider subscribing to the channel. I make a ton of guides and builds for Path of Exile 2 and other games like this. But let's get straight into this because it's going to be a big one. Okay, so first up, Strongboxes. These are these big metal boxes that you will find out in the world. And lots of people think these are bad and not worth even using because the rewards are so bad. Well, they are bad, but you can make these rewards better by upgrading them. Just like anything else in the game, these strong boxes can be upgraded. So when you see them, they'll be blue, usually with a couple of affixes. You can use a Orb of Augmentation to add more affixes to them, and more affixes can lead to more rewards. You can then use an orb of a Regal Orb to upgrade them from a blue to a yellow, making them even better. And then you can even use Exalted Orbs to give more affixes to this strong box. You can basically treat these like a waystone, make them stronger and stronger and stronger. It does make them harder, but the rewards will be better. And, you know, if you interact with them normally, the rewards are just bad. So better than bad is still good. I've not had anything crazy from here, but I have had decent rewards that make them worth using. So definitely upgrade these if you find them. And, you know, you don't have to use Exalteds on them, but at least, you know, put a couple of the lower tier materials in to make them yellow, to make them, you know, have a chance of something good. Okay, now let's talk about jewels. So if you're new to Path of Exile 2, or you haven't really looked into the jewel system, you could be missing out on tons of damage. Jewels can literally define your build. And if you're following a guide, or you're trying to just patch something together, and you're not using jewels correctly, that could be the defining thing that's not making your build pop off like the ones you're maybe watching. So I want to go over them in quite a bit of depth, show you how to make them better, and some tips to find jewels that you haven't even seen before. Okay, so let's go to the stash and get some jewels. So I'm just going to grab some at random. I'll grab like the first 5. So the first thing to say is if you're equipping a jewel like this is the first thing we can improve on. So you see here, this is something that you would just find. It would drop from a mob. It would drop as you're playing the game. You don't want to equip this. The first thing you want to do is upgrade it. Like everything else in the game, this can be upgraded. So again, you can use Orb of Transmutation, Orbs of Augmentation, and Regal Orbs. I always have these on me at all times, just because, you know, most things can be upgraded. So if we take this one, this has nothing on it. We can use an Orb of Augmentation to give it an extra affix, and then we can use a Regal Orb to turn it into a yellow. And then if you really want to, you can use an Exalted Orb to give it an extra affix. So I've grabbed a bunch more to show you. And I would say 4 affixes is like the bare minimum of what you should be equipping in your jewel slots. And again, if you're brand new, these are your jewel slots. They're like little circles. They're empty circles that you'll see on your passive tree. And that's where you equip the jewels. So 4 affixes is like the bare minimum you want to be going for. Once you've got them to 4 affixes, you might be in a position where 1 of them is a good roll, 3 of them aren't. One thing you can do is you can use Chaos Orbs to potentially roll off a bad affix. So say here we've got increased armor, increased rage, they're all pretty good. Over here we've got like stun, fire resistance, fire damage. Say you wanted to roll one of those, use that, and it switched over to melee damage. You can do that. Now, if you don't like any of them, say you don't like any of these, you can go to the reforging bench, and then you get another chance. So if you put all 3 of those in here, we reforge them, we now have an unidentified, we identify it, and now we have a brand new one with completely different affixes. You know, leech, increased armor, weapons, things like that. So you get another chance. Okay, so that's the 3 basic jewels, you know, the emeralds, the rubies, the sapphires. But there's also something called a time lost jewel. And these come from the Trials of Sekhma. If you go in the Trials of Sekhma with the Jinn buyer, these things here, and you have the 4 trials, when you get to the end, there'll be a big room full of like chests, and these can drop the time lost jewels, the really good jewels. Additionally, if you go and you finish the Trial of Sekhma, if you finish a Trial of Sekhma and you get these things here. When you complete a Trial of Sekhma, you will get unique relics. So these are all the different relics in the game that you're probably already aware of. There are special unique relics for completing a Trial of Sekhma. Now, you can use these and they will make the Trial of Sekhma harder. And at the end, the boss will drop an Against the Darkness jewel. And these are even better than that. So there are lots of really good jewels in the game tied behind these Trials of Sekhma. So I would definitely encourage you to go and do that. They're pretty tough, so your build's got to be up to it. You can also get these. You can trade for these very, very, a couple of exalts, 5 to 10 exalts, and you can get these as well. And they look like this. So let's talk about them real quick. However you want to get them. So here I've got 3 rubies because we're talking about rubies. If we just identify all 3 of these, let's look at them. So you can see here, small passive skills in radius grant increased damage with war cries. Passives get increased magnitude, and they give 1 rage on melee hit. We've got here, grant increased elemental damage, block chance, knockback, and rage on melee hit. Increased fire damage. So you see, there's lots of cool things these do. And the main thing here is these were all the same, and you can see they have radius. So this has a small, and this has a medium. Okay, so if I go in the passive tree, we'll load it up, and we go to a dual slot. I got this one here. I got an emerald in here. I'll take this out, and I'll show you with this one. This says small passives will give increased damage with war cries, and then notables will give 7% increased magnitude and 1 rage on hit. So if we put this in, basically what it will do is these things here are small passives. So these will get that, and then the notables are these big things here. So the big ones are the notables, and these are small passives. If we put this in, you'll see the small passives will get increased damage with war cries. So if we took any of these 3 things here, or any of these, you see it has 3% increased damage with war cries. And then if we were to get any of these big ones, we would get rage on hit and magnitude. This one and this one. So if we take that, if we take that, we would get those extra things. And that's big, 1 rage on hit in 3, 4, 5 locations. 1, 2, 3, 4 locations is really good. That's a lot. So these are really good. And this is a small radius. If we put the medium radius in, we now capture that whole cluster, half of this cluster, and that whole cluster there. So you can really get a lot of really good bonuses. And if you had, what does this one do? 1% fire damage for every small passive. So every small passive here gets 1 fire damage, 3% leech, and minions gain physical damage reduction. So every single one of these is just stacked. So if you put this in a position where you had loads of things around it that you were already going to take, they would all get buffed up. We've got an emerald here to try as well. So if we identify this, 1% increased lightning damage, passive skills, grant mana recovery. We can regal this. Pretty bad altogether. So we can try and chaos this as well. So if we've lost the lightning damage, but it has gone to medium, which is really, really good. So if we go again, we've gone lightning damage again. We go once more. Accuracy, medium, increased stun, increased freeze build up with quarterstaffs. This is massive for my build. I'm playing a cold golden lightning monk. So if we exalt this, passive skills grant 5% pin builder. I mean, this is not bad. So I'll show this one here. So yeah, hopefully you can see now, these aren't great positions. These aren't like perfect gems, but you can see the amount you could do with this if you found a good place to put them and the right stuff, the right affixes on them. So yeah, hopefully this helps. This is definitely something that I'm trying to do more of. And if you haven't done this yet, it might help you too. Okay, so as we've talked about the Trial of Sekhma being really good for getting these end game time lost jewels, the Trial of Chaos also is really good thing to do at end game, even after you already have your ascendancy. So again, these are with the these ones here, the inscribed ultimatums, and the final version of these is you can do 10 trials in a row, and you go in, you do a trial, you will get through the mobs, and you'll get a reward at the end. This will either be a corrupted item or a soul core. And if you go here and you go on exchange, you can kind of see what these look like. You can see here, these are all the ones on offer. And some are very, very, very good. These work the same way as runes. So if you look at them, you know what the runes do. They get equipped in your rune slots on your weapons and armor. And you can see here, these have similar effects. Don't sleep on them. These can be really good. One of the best ones in the game right now is the sekhma, 30% increased elemental damage with attacks. And you can just get this from doing the Trials of Chaos. You can also get these on the exchange for I think 33 right now. You could get one of these for, but you can just get them from doing the trial. And I've got some to show you. If I go on, I'm obviously using an elemental build right now. You can see here on my quarterstaff, I've mostly got physical damage, and that converts into ice in my build. However, the iron rune gives 20% increased physical damage. This thing here, the soul core of blah, 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 gives 30% increased elemental. If we look at the Ice Strike right now, it does 115,000 damage. With the new patch, we can replace our gems, which is fantastic. So I could go into here and I could replace this Iron Rune, and you can see the damage, 115,000. If I replace this with a Soul Core, replace Iron Rune with a Soul Core, yep, we've just gained 3,000 damage. So if you're trying to work out your build, definitely grab some Soul Cores. Some are a lot better than others. You can get some that increase rarity. You can get ones that work on, resistances, ones that work on different ailments. There's loads of really good Soul Cores. Definitely have a look in there to see if there's anything you want. Definitely run Trials of Chaos, because yeah, you can really improve your build just by finding these. You'll see a lot of like the people that are making endgame builds have lots of red gem slots, and that is because they're using the Soul Cores. So yeah, definitely grab some of those. Okay, so now let's talk about something really good you can do with the Distilled Delirium emotions. So if you go into your stash, you'll have these. I have the tab for it, but you can just have them loose. These come from Deliriums. So I'm going to grab, them all to show you how they work. So if I just grab, I have everything but the last one. It is what it is. They're really hard to find. When you're doing Deliriums, these are the open hands on the map. They look like, I'll try and find one to show you. They look like this. This is a Delirium. So you can see here, if you go in the guide here, this is a Delirium. And when you go in, this will have like a mirror. You go through the mirror and you fight loads of monsters in like a gray fog. And they will drop these emotions the further you get through the Delirium, the more mobs you defeat, you'll get more of these emotions. Okay, so once you have all of these distilled emotions, what do you do with them? Let's go over it. I've already talked about this first one in another guide, but I'll quickly mention it. On your amulet, you can instill a passive power that you are nowhere near on the passive tree. So here I have Doomsayer allocated, which gives me a 30% increased damage in area of Herald skills. And you can see, we're going to the passive tree, that's all the way down here, and I'm nowhere near it, but I have it on my amulet, which is fantastic. All you do is say you want something on the tree, say you want this here, or say you want this here, increased projectile damage, or this one down here. Say you want heavy ammunition, you'd hold it down, and it says you hold down Alt or right thumbstick, I think, on the consoles, and it says you need Guilt, Greed, and Greed, which is like pink, orange, orange. You then just go into your emotions, you right click them. So what was it? Guilt, Greed, and Greed. You'd put your amulet on, and here's the thing we just saw. You'd press instill, and it would put that on your amulet without doing anything with your passive points. Fantastic. But there's something else you can do with these. You can use them to instill your waystones. Okay, I'm going to go up here so I'm not covering any of the screen. I've shown a little bit of this when I did it. I covered like how to get more rarity on your waystones. And everyone was saying, what else can you instill on your waystones? So let's go over them. If I put in a waystone, there's a tier 15 waystone. What you do is you can take one of these. I'm just going to control click to put one in, or you can split the stack. One of these distilled ire, 20% increased magic monsters, and players in the area 70% more delirious. So why do you want to do that? Well, if you are stacking for a certain thing in this game, having more of it exponentially rapidly increases the amount of monsters and the amount of loot. So in your Atlas tree, if you was to put things that give you more magic monsters, on this waystone here, for example, we have 46% increased magic pack size, meaning when we do get magic monsters, there's loads of them. If we then combine this with increased magic monsters, we're getting even more. So this is a good way to, if you're doing a good map like a breach, or if you're doing a mirror or something like a delirium, or you're doing something with lots of monsters, or you have a really good setup on your map and you want to make the most of it, this is a good way to really milk that for even more. On top of that, you can stack these. So if I put 3 in, we have 60% increased magic monsters, meaning this waystone would be just super juiced. As well as this, once you instill this, you can still upgrade your waystone. So I'll show you that as well. If we was to put in, say, this one, and we use one of these, you can see now it's instilled, so it has all of these effects. We can still upgrade it just like normal, just like before. You can still upgrade it to yellow, and the instilled part will always remain, which is really, really nice, and it has a little effect on it as well. So that's one thing we can do here. You can also mix and match these like this, which gives you all of the different bonuses combined together. So the other thing to say is, what is delirious? What does it mean when it says players are more delirious? So that means that when you load into a map, everything on that map is going to be foggy. Even if it's not a delirium map, you could just go into like a breach map, a normal map. It will be a little bit grey, a little bit foggy, like a delirium, because everything is more delirious. The amount of delirium you get, I don't know the exact, the maths on this, but the more delirium it is, the harder the mobs hit, and the harder they are to defeat, and the more loot they drop. So really pumping the delirium of a map gives you a lot more potential rewards. So yeah, that's the first one, more magic monsters. Okay, next we have the Disgust emotion. If we drop this in, this has a higher Delirious at 18 and 30% increased precursor tabs found in the area. If you're really struggling to get precursors, you know, if you're trying to find like breach precursors so you can juice up your breaches and you can't find any, we're trying to find more. I personally seem to have a low drop rate on the ritual ones. I find it hard to get the ritual precursors. You could juice up a map like this, go into say a ritual, and you've got a better chance of finding more ritual precursors to put in your towers to get more in the future. So yeah, this is something really good that I do quite often. If we go to the next one, Fear, 22%. Rare monsters have 25% chance to have an additional modifier. I'll go through this a bit faster. We've got Despair, 30% increased stack size of simulacrum splinters found in the area, which is really good if you're trying to farm the simulacrum splinters to get the 300. We've got the Greed, 8% increased rarity of items in the area, which is absolutely fantastic. And you'll notice some of these drop in higher quantities than other. You see these, I have 1, 1, and 1. I have loads of these here. This is something I would be stacking on a really good waystone. If I had a really nice waystone with like increased rarity, increased quantity of items, things like that, loads of mobs, you would just drop a bunch of this, a bunch of these on, and just knock in 24% increased rarity, which is really nice. We've got Envy increases waystones found in the area, which is good early on if you're struggling to find waystones. We've got, what's the other ones? We've got increased pack size from the Guilt, which I personally never ever used, but pretty cool. And then the final ones are unique monsters have 1 additional modifiers. The only one I haven't really covered is I think it's Isolation. It's not these, Suffering, Despair, Fear. No, Isolation. Isolation I've never seen drop. Isolation increases the Delirium by 50%, and I believe that's it. That's all it does. But that's huge. That's going to increase your drops significantly. But yeah, that's the distilled emotions on waystones. Hopefully that helps show you the different things you can do. The ones I use a lot would be these ones for rarity, would be these ones for waystones, and the precursor ones. These ones here. They're the 3 that I use the most because they're the things that I'm normally trying to get more of to try and, you know, farm items better. But yeah, that's instilling waystones as simple as it is. It's really not that, once you've farmed a few, it's really not that hard to get into the habit of just having, you know, you could have a few down here and just throw them on a good waystone when you find one. But yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover in this one. I've done a few of these guides, these things that you might not know, these kind of things. But yeah, these are ones that I've really started getting into recently, and they're really interesting. They're very kind of like parts of the end game that aren't just thrown at you as you're playing, and you might not have even seen some of this. If there's anything that you've seen here that's brand new, or you know, you've learned something, it would mean the world if you could follow the channel, subscribe to the channel. It does really, really help me. I've seen loads of new faces around here since starting making these Path of Exile 2 guides, and thank you all so much. And anyone else who follows, thank you too. But that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and I'll catch you in the next one.